Hello everyone, welcome to a brand new episode of the Long Coat Mafia Podcast, the internet's most hated mafia-themed geek podcast. It is I, the Reverend Godfather, the show's main host and frontman. This week, this year, we bring you a special gift from Don Ramirez. Now, Don Ramirez is a special friend of the show. He's been a friend of the show even before there was the show. But still, he's been very helpful over the past 4 years by allowing us to record events that he's been a part of and so forth and so on. But this year, he's working on a project called documenting the Frederick underground art scene, and it's mostly him recording like indie bands, local indie bands, and I think artists as well. But either way, he invited the show to record his interview with Andrew, A.K.A. Mr. Drew Starr, and Kevin, A.K.A. Mr. Buddy Love from the Drivin Beats. That's right, the band is called the Drivin Beats. Now, this is a very interesting interview, and again, I thank both Andrew, Kevin, and Don for allowing the show to sit in and record this. And not only that, I want to thank the person that runs the facility, and that his name is William. You might be noticing that I'm not saying last names other than Don's, because I know Don's okay with me saying his last name, but I'm not sure how Kevin, Andrew, and William feel about me sharing their last names. So that's why I'm kind of leaving them those names out. But William runs the Let There Be Rock School, and this is an organization that teaches kids, I'm not sure exactly instruments, but he kind of helps instruct the kids how to be a part of a band. So that's always a good thing. This is like an after-school type of program that runs even through the summer itself. So special thanks for him letting us record at his brand new facility. But the thing is, one of the things is that I want to bring up, because right about now is when I bring up the disclaimers. The first disclaimer I want to bring up is the fact that where we were recording at, there was an air conditioner, one of the window type air conditioners, and if we shut off this air conditioner, that whole room that we were in, this big room that we were in, would have gotten extremely hot, and that air conditioner had to be running constantly. And because this was a unique setup, I was trying to find the right setting to present everything to you. So you're going to hear kind of a shift at times of me adjusting everything to find that nook. And because everybody was kind of shifting around a little bit, it was a constant yet challenging battle. So I hope the audio is up to all of yours par. No, it wasn't as bad as the pen episode that we just released last week, but it's hopefully way better and suitable for all of you out there. That also being said, more disclaimers is that this is Don's content, and so I'm going to give him most of the credit, even though we had a few follow-up questions towards the end of the interview and the show that was not show, but the content that Don helped provide. So I'm giving him full credit for this because he kind of gifted it to us. So that leaves us to the next part. What was, if anything, cut out? There were two things kind of, I won't say cut out. One was the fact that at one point Don had to switch tapes in his camera. That's right, tapes. That he's using tapes for his filmmaking in regards to the project he's working on. So when he said, I got to switch out the tapes, we hit pause, and once he hit record again, we hit record again. We depaused it, so there's a little bit of cut there. the next time there's a cut or a pause was when we stopped for a little while to kind of stretch our legs and use the facilities. And by the time I got done with the facilities and came back, the guys were started up again. So therefore, that you hear the conversation pretty much already going on. So that's about it. Again, special thanks to Don Ramirez, Andrew, A.K.A. Drew Star, and Kevin from A.K.A. Mr. Buddy Love from the band known as the Drivin Beats. So special thanks to you guys, really special thanks, and also to you, Will, if you're listening to this, special thanks to you to let us use your facility, and I wish all of you the best. And so I'm going to step away right now and let the conversation between Don and Andrew, a.k.a. Mr. Drew Star, and Kevin, a.k.a. Mr. Buddy Love, begin right now. Addendum before we begin. I just want to let you know you're going to have to turn your volume down a little bit because it's going to come full force at you really, really loud. So let me step back, and again, let's start the interview. Here's Don.
I'm here with Mr. Drew Star and Mr. Buddy Love of the Drivin Beats, so this is going to be an exciting little conversation. So Andy, when did you guys get together and actually form the Drivin Beats, and tell me about the genesis of this band?
Well, I know that I was coming back from California, and I had just gotten back from California, and it was at a Freak Fest event. What year was that?
I don't know. I think
12?
It was 2012.
2012.
Chuck died.
The fall, that August,
after
somewhere in the August,
yeah.
at the Freak Fest.
The left was on the last leg.
2012, and the Skeptics played, the Left
Who
played there, and the Voodoo Love Gods played, or some combination of those. But Kevin was playing bass. I showed up and recorded everything. I had a little small recorder, and then me and Kevin just started talking and all. And then Brian had my number, his brother Brian, and he said, "Hey, Kevin's really looking for somebody to jam with." So I got his number, called him. He came over to the house, and we started jamming around. I think I was even playing guitar initially or something. I don't know. We didn't know what was how it was gonna pan out. But then
I thought it was up at that up the other place it was up at that where he rented out. It was at they're in Hagerstown. What was that place called? Because I saw you then. That was the first
Well,
time.
I saw that was a Left show.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that was after that, because I just came back from that Freak Union. That I just got back that week, that couple days before, and that's where I hooked up with you at.
All right.
I saw the Left after. That's when we did a party. It was like a memorial for Chuck
Yeah, 'cause
and
I know
John.
right,
That was
right,
a little
exactly,
bit. A couple months
exactly.
later, we hung out then. Maybe that's when I don't know if we got together right after that. But 2012, basically.
Kevin, have you played with Andy prior to the Drivin Beats?
Yeah, back in the day, I was the utility man filling in for. At one point, I was playing bass for the Skeptics, and I was filling in for the Voodoo Love Gods because they were right up the street. They were both up on Braddock Mountain, and then and I was filling in playing bass while they were looking for a bass player. And I did it a couple times. I was there when they first formed, with the Voodoo Love. I was right there with them. And at that time, I don't know if I was doing anything, but I also was doing something with Monster Rock. But then I said, whenever you guys need me, just let me know. And I went up there and helped them. And I also helped them write some songs like Bad Seed.
And if everybody doesn't know, so Brian, the singer in the Love Gods, is Kevin's brother. So they, work in tandem. They were in the Left together, did stuff with the Voodoo Love Gods together.
Because back in those days, when I got into Skeptics, I had my plate was full of songs that I had to take it home, listen to it, and practice it. But we were doing 2 practices in the Voodoo Love. I was doing 3 a week. But then, being young and everything, and being close by, it was fun. I enjoyed it.
With the Drivin Beats, and Andy, you and I have talked a little bit about this. The most fascinating aspect of talking to you guys is this ability of you to work together, to be able to work your creative process together. So let's just talk about you two. What's that creative process like, and when you form a song, when you write music, when you come up with the image for the band? What's that collaboration like between you two as longtime friends?
Well, I think there's a couple songs that we've come up with almost the whole thing kind of together, you know, either on the spot. I know, like the Drivin Beats theme, called you up on the phone and we were just like joking around about lyrics, hitting them back and forth, and then after the lyrics we just came up with some music that kind of sounded good. And then, so, you know, I might come up with a part, or hey, listen to this goes with that verse, and then Kevin will come up with some guitar parts or the lead part, or we talk about that. But a lot of times it basically roughs up at the house where, and I think each of us do come up with a good percentage of the music and the lyrics, and then we bring it in and just see how it fits together. And then, you know, I'll just come up with the bass part, though. Then Kevin has to come up with the guitar part for my songs, and vice versa. And then we may add a little something, or take a little something out, or shorten something up, or stretch. You know, just play around with it and jam on it until it seems like it's the right thing.
It's an individual effort, and like I was telling Doc, I think each of it has its song has its own personality, because most of the songs we write, it's mainly when Andy does it, it's his, and then mine. But then I'm like, I got this far with the song, which is almost the closing of the song. I need to get these guys and maybe help me to, you know, finish it off or whatever. But you know, that's what I've gotten. I usually start with titles, and I have like archive, like stuff that I already have written down, you know, like paragraph to a song. But you know, these are songs that I'll get to eventually for the Drivin Beats. But you know, so you know, we like the same thing, and I think it kind of clicks really fast. You know,
we got more songs, original songs, that we can play in a night. I mean, which is kind of a, you know, one of my pet peeves, because it seems like you're only allocated 45 minutes anymore for one band, because they want 5 different bands, and everybody gets, if you're lucky, 45 minutes to an hour. That's it. We got twice that many songs that we can play, so we have to pick and choose which ones we're gonna push forward, which ones we're gonna work on for the future, which ones, you know, we've got so many, we got to rotate them in and out.
Let me throw a question at Kevin, and I like the term you used, the personality. What are, of the Drivin Beat songs that you guys have written and recorded at this point, what are some of your personal favorite songs? What are the ones are you most proud of, and why?
You know, I gotta say, you know, I gotta say all I have to say all of them. I can't just pick, you know, just one. But the song that I like a lot is a song that I do just because we use a saxophone player, and we've never used one. That's why, you know, it's kind of cool hearing that. But I have to say that I like them all, and I want to like them all, and I want to do the best I can. I say this, and I always have. So if you're an original band, you have the left, they had their songs and all that. And where you don't have a band, you don't, unless you have your own songs, you know. And I told Andy, I just want to just keep doing it and keep doing it, because you never know what's going to happen. I'm not married. I don't have a lot of like, my time is that's my time. You know, so when I go home, I think, you know, when I'm in the mood, I think about things I need to do, change the lyrics, or start something, or play the Farfisa, you know, and thinking about I can actually play a CD and try to play the Farfisa along with it. But it's all about that. It's all about being original. We're not copying anyone, so I think we pretty much stamped our you know, our name into you know, the songs that we do. So all original.
I think it's a really fun and exciting sound. I've seen you guys perform now, I think 3 or 4 times. I really enjoy every time that I see you guys live. Kevin, let me throw another question at you, and then I want you to answer the same one. In the entirety of your career, okay, how many songs would you say that you've been involved with in the recording? I know it's a great, but take a rough guess.
Well, if you say songs that were just recorded, or songs that I've just played.
Let's just go with recorded. Songs that are documented and exist somewhere.
Well, I got to say probably at least Is it a hundred at least? Maybe.
That sounds right.
I don't know, but if they're songs you just played, because I know the Skeptics had a lot of songs, and when I did with Monster Rock, had a lot of. Left didn't have many songs, neither did Voodoo Love Gods. But I know the in Drivin Beats, So yes, those are the three bands that I said had. I mean, a lot of songs. So I'm just going to take a wild guess. I don't know for sure, Don. I mean, it could be close to that. So, even if you're talking about, some cheap recordings.
Right, yeah. Just something that is documented.
Probably.
Not just, yeah. Andy, same one for you.
Well, I started recording with one of my first bands, Exposure, we were called, in David Lance, and that's how I met Pat Favel. This is probably in about 83 or 4. That's how I met Pat. He came down with his 4-track reel-to-reel recorder and maybe 2 microphones, and recorded us playing in this guy Dave Lance's basement. Dave used to play with Pat, or knew Pat from some projects with Andy McCutcheon that he was in. More Door.
Yeah.
I don't even know what they were called.
Yeah, didn't he dress
up
up
like
like
keyboards?
Yeah.
Dave,
Lance.
and then in fact, his father killed himself, asphyxiated himself in that same garage that we used to practice in.
Wow.
And Pat, for payment for recording, wanted the pack of Pall Malls that his father had left behind, because he smoked Pall Malls, the one that was in the car where he had killed himself. He wanted that as payment for
Did you get it?
I'm not sure. I can't remember. I don't know. I probably did, because he never complained that he didn't get it, so I guess he got him.
Kevin, let's take our time and go through your history with the bands you've performed in, starting with the earliest bands that you remember. Take it all the way up to the Drivin Beats, and when he's done, same thing with you, Andy.
Well, Jet Electros, we pull that out. No, actually, when I started playing bass, this other guy that lived in Leesburg, Virginia, this is probably, I don't know if it was 79, 78, somewhere around there. Actually, I got a picture on my phone.
78, 79.
Yeah. But it was just a bass and guitar. We're just fooling around. And he knew a drummer, and we, maybe you guys know where Luckett's, Virginia is?
Yeah.
And if you go through Luckett's, there's a big old looking school right there to the left-hand side.
Yeah.
It was in there that we jammed there a couple times, and that was the first. I mean, we really didn't have a name. It was just getting started. And the next band I got into was more just like drink and have a lot of fun. It was Jet Electros. So
Jet Electros.
Yeah.
Who was the lineup?
Bart Ritten, Scott Ritten, Tim Ritten, and me.
So is this one of the reasons, because Ritten I've met a few times, and I can see everyone, he's important to everyone as a friend. So
Sure.
I'm
I went to school with him, Bart. We're really close. But then after that, Brian was telling me about, he was living in Hagerstown. And he goes, I know these guys. He ran into Jim and Bill, and then he gave me a tape. And I listened to it, and I was going like, God, at least it sounds like, someone could play guitar.
Right.
So Brian made a connection, but when we started, it was just the three of us. It was just me, Jim, and Bill, and then Brian came later and all that. And then after
Brian is your brother.
Yeah, Brian's my brother.
Brian Sefcik.
Yeah, but I got an older brother, Jeff.
Did he play?
But I gave him a.
He played tambourine.
It's green too. No, I call him Jeff Threats. That's his. But he knows all about. He saw Bowie. He knows a lot about. But he always asks me questions about that. But anyway, from there, everything was kind of sketchy. We started the Monster Rock band. It was Scott Ritten, me, and Chuck Rempe, and then a lot of Jim played. We actually played at 930 Club, the old one. Jim was playing drums. Jim Swope. So. I played with that, and then I messed around with the Voodoos also. I was always there just in case they needed, so I always filled in. I wasn't a permanent member, but after that, in 1986 to 88, I joined the Skeptics. And after that was...
Who's in the lineup with the Skeptics in those years?
In those years with me, it was just me and Andy and Steve Blick and staff. That was it. But when they first started, it was 4 members and all that.
What's it like working with Blick and staff and with Andy McCutcheon? You enjoy it, a creative process?
Yeah, because it was so smooth and easy, and I had to really, because these guys are really good. Steve made me better, playing along with him, and I knew what I was, but I was prepared for it, So, but then after that, I played with him like 2 years, and then I got married and all that stuff. But that's when I did the little project with the married couple thing, and I have some of that recorded. I think you should hear a couple songs, off of that, But anyway, so I was married for a while. Then after that, Brian, this is like in the late '90s. Brian and them were still playing with the Voodoo Love Gods. They had that other Beef Pistol thing going on.
Right.
So, and he said, well, yeah, you can join. We started. I was playing bass, but that's where I didn't want to be. I wanted to have 5 people in the band, And I stopped there for a little bit. Probably it wasn't about a year, but I came back and played for those guys until about like 2004. I was with them for a long time, and then I messed around with Chuck and them again. Like we just record. We weren't really a band. It was Monster Rock. We just recorded some stuff, and I have some of that, But then Brian was saying something. Hey, we're going to get the left back together and all that. I said, okay, it's fine. I said, I hope we're doing it for trying to make a little bit of money off of something.
Right,
so
right.
We did. It started out, we were getting 200 each time we played them. It just turned into, turned into a big party, and it seemed like no one, we weren't doing any more original songs, and it turned into a cover band. And I was like, I think it's ran its course, and I was going like, I'm just not going to be, I want to be out there, I want to be writing songs, I'm going to show people what I got, So, and then Andy said, the only one who's going to make that happen is you. So he's the one that actually got me and said, just do it, So, and that's when it was in 2012, and I said, Andy, I think we're going to try to do something. So, and that's when it all started. I mean, there's been some ups and downs. He left for 2 years. We had a girl singer in the band, and you know what? She was really good. I mean, I like women singers in bands. Faith was really good too. She's a good singer. But then we got Garrett, the drummer, and all that, and he wasn't really committed. He was younger, and he was already in a band. And see, that's what I'm saying. We've been kind of digging ourselves out of a hole. Finally, we got Doc now. He's been in the band for about a year, and then he plays hard. It makes you just know when things are clicking, because that just makes you play better and things going through your head. And now it is, and now I'm just going, God, finally, it just seems like it's been a struggle. Now, I knew we had the talent. We got more good things to come.
Andy,
take it away.
Andy,
Nice segue. Good segue.
In a nutshell.
let's go through your history.
Well, it's sort of a long and sordid past there. I mentioned, that it's sort of the high school level bands. I had actually played in orchestras and stuff like that before the rock and roll stuff. I did pretty good on cello and was in a bunch of like all county courses and stuff like that. Started in elementary school, and I think that's where I really, got convinced that I could play something. You know what I mean?
Wow.
But then I started getting into rock and roll. I bought a drum set. I had a friend of mine, Ralph Gann, who was playing the drums. He had them at his house. We used to hook school and go to his house and drop acid and smoke a lot of pot. And then I would get up on the drums. And he was kind of transitioning from the drums to guitar. So he'd pick up the guitar, and I just got behind the drums and just started banging on them. And then, kind of figured out I could do something. I could keep a beat or whatever. And then he sold me his drum kit. Took it home, started putting records on and playing along with the records. And everybody told me at the time, just listen to AC/DC. It's so simple. If you can get that down, then you can move on to other stuff. So I did some AC/DC. But then I had an older girlfriend. This was I was probably still like 17 at the time, 16, 17. I had an older girlfriend who was into punk rock, and she started turning me on to the Ramones and stuff like that. And so I started playing to their stuff, and it was going a little bit faster. But I also liked the Who and Keith Moon and his drumming style. And so kind of learned through osmosis. I never took any lessons, but just real passionate, real into it. Practice every day after school. And then I met David Lance, who was a keyboardist who had played around in a couple different bands. And we did a couple different projects with some different guitar players. And we recorded, I got a lot of basement recordings of that. And then probably the recording that Pat did, we ended up being called Exposure. And we started playing with the Voodoo Love Gods. I don't know if we played with the Skeptics one time. We may have played with the Skeptics. I think down at the
down to Carroll Creek. I think
somewhere down there.
Yeah.
So that's how I sort of got introduced to some of these guys, and then Pat was starting the Voodoos. He didn't really like his first drummer, wasn't working out, and then he recruited me. So I joined the Voodoo Love Gods, played with them I probably joined in about 86-ish, and then left about 89. Pat had left in the middle.
Yeah, you would have played on into 1990.
Was it 90? Maybe it was 90. It was somewhere 89 or 90.
It was 90. I can testify.
I moved down to Baltimore at that time, and then I ended up meeting a French girl, and I went to France, and I lived in Toulouse, France, for about 3 years. Had a couple different bands that I was in, but the biggest one were called Les Méduses, which means the jellyfish. Actually, the other really just as big was the Mad Daddies. Les Méduses did all original sort of funkadelic, groovy stuff, and the Mad Daddies was straight up like rockabilly, rock and roll, which the French really loved. I guess they still do. So I had a lot of success with both of those bands, and we recorded Les Méduses. We made it into, for our department, which was like a state would be. They don't have states over there; they have departments. They have a big festival where each department sends one band to it. It's called the Printemps de Bourges. Bourges is a city, and it's a big national competition. We were in the top 3 for our department, but we didn't make that final cut. But we got all the way to the top 3, the last playoff, so to speak, of bands. And they picked some French guy, go figure. I guess they didn't like English, but they're a little bit snobby about that over there. So they picked this dude. He was doing poetry to guitar, but he brought in a really good violin player at the last minute and had this violin, guitar, folksy French thing going on. So they kind of beat out the all English, because I was the lead singer, so I was singing an English rock and roll band. But we had a lot of success. We played over there all the time. We were working on a record deal and stuff. But the rest of the band didn't want to sign their rights away for like 2-year period. And that's what the record company wanted. If they were going to put something out, they wanted the rights to all the songs, and they put the brakes on it. And about that time, I met my wife. I was getting tired of living in people's living rooms and shit like that, because I was just moving from house to house, flopping around, and came back to the States. Ended up joining the Army. But right when I came back, I was in 2 different bands. I was in Café de los Muertos as soon as I got back with Pat Favel. That was about 93, 94 time frame. Then I was in another band with Gary Rodarmel, and we were called, and I played the drums with Gary, but with Pat I was on the bass. And I said in France I either sang or played the bass in all my projects. But I was in a band with Gary. We were called Truman Sparks. Sky Hissey was in that too, another celebrity artist around
Sky
here.
Hissey right here. This actually, I
That his
bought
artwork?
it from one of Sky's shows. I gotta remember to take that.
And Sky played bass. I was on drums. Gary was hitting guitar, and that was doing pretty good. And then I joined the Army, and then left them about a week before I went in, and I think we had a big fight and everything. Whenever you're breaking up a band, it seems like there was a big fight. Like me and Brian got in a big fight right before I left, and then I got in a fight with Gary.
Over a band.
But and then joined the Army, and ended up doing my own Drew Starr project, which was a solo, self-accompanied. I had a kick drum with a tambourine. I played rockabilly shit in Germany, and while I was in the Army, and then I met Kevin in 2012, and then that's really the only band I was in the Army. It's because it's really hard because you're moving around a lot. And I even left for 2 years.
2 years.
Went back to California. We had a web page, so we kind of kept that going. We did a little bit of recording, once when I came back. We did some recording together, but we kept in touch and everything. And I think Kevin was playing around in some different bands, Sourpuss and whatnot. But then when I came back in 2015, we got back together. And that's when we started playing out a lot with the drummer Garrett, who disappeared on us one day.
Well, we just had to jump start it all over again. And, you know, that's how I feel.
And then, we got Duck. Well, it's really hard. We were talking about money's creeped up a couple times. I mean, you guys know how it is. It's hard to have people motivated for a long period of time when there's not a lot of money coming in. And money just doesn't come into a band. You're forking out money for equipment, your time, maybe running studio space, travel, and everybody wants you to play for free, to donate your time for free, and that's all great and everything. But come on, after a while, people break off. They can't, life steps in. And this is a little quote I came up with. Although life gets in the way of your dreams, dreams are what make life worth living.
Remember that.
I'll throw another question at both of you. Kevin, who are some of your influences through your life? Who are some of the musicians and artists that you would recognize in helping you to craft your voice? Same question to you, Mr. Drew Starr, after Mr. Seth.
There's just so many of them.
Name a few that come to top.
Yeah, it starts when, being little. As of course, it's Elvis Presley, Beatles, and the Stones, and all that kind of stuff.
I love that classic. Jimmy Swope, the same thing. Everyone, he even said the Monkees. I thought that was at the Monkees.
Because I'll tell you something, they're on MeTV every Sunday for an hour, and I watch that. But yes, I remember we had on the last rain in Clarksville 45. But other than that, as time went on, I always liked music. And before I started getting real influences, when I got a little bit older and I knew what, and of course when the punk scene came, before that came in, I was listening to Iggy Dolls, Alice Cooper, Roxy Music, David Bowie, liked all that. I can't say who really was. There's so many of them now, but as time goes on, we had your favorite punk bands. But when I look back at all of that, I know I haven't given you any name. Of course I like Link Ray, and there's so many of them that I can't pinpoint, because I think I need, and one thing I did when I was a little bit younger, I was like, well, I don't like that, and I only like but now I'm like, we want to mention the Gamut, the radio station that plays our song No Lies. And when I discovered them in 2013, because it was on AM radio, and I stopped there because I heard Blue Suede Shoes, but after that I heard Lou Reed, and I was going, what kind of station is this? And then they just played everything, and I started thinking, this is the way you need to be about music, because I appreciate a lot of people and their ability to play, so if you're going to say there'd be one guy, I guess it would be Elvis Presley, but anyway, there's a lot of people that I can't pinpoint because there's so many of them. I love John Lennon, and I love David Bowie. I like the early John Lennon, and there's a lot of I like Johnny Lydon, So but there's and then there's Drew Starr as well. So if that tells you anything, I just have a broad spectrum of a lot of people. I'm just influenced, and that's for me to take, and for me to put out what I'm hearing and taking in. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. So absolutely. Drew Starr.
Well, the top singer that comes to mind was Rob Pearsall of the Subterraneans. He was my idol for a long time, and he let me hang out with him. I learned some of his moves, and got some tips and tricks from him. I don't know if you're familiar with the Subterraneans or not, but
I know a little bit of the music and a little bit of the history from Deadly Spawn.
Yeah, I used to work at this gas station on South Street in Frederick, and I used to cut my hair in a bowl cut, and this hearse pulled up one day, and all these weird dudes in black clothing jumped out and dyed black hair, and they were like, hey, you look like D.D. Ramone, man. We're having a party. Why don't you come over? And they lived.
That's all it took.
And they lived around the corner, right around the corners when they were all down there on South Street. And I had this. Got my girlfriend. Well, it was between South and Patrick, back in the project area. I guess they were renting a house. And anyway, I showed up at this house party in the basement. Subterraneans were there. I was on acid, smoking pot. And there was Rob Pearsall with his cha-cha Beatle boots on, swinging his butt around in tight black leather pants, and I thought it was great.
I'm excited to see Rob in September. He'll be performing.
Yeah, you
with
know, I
Thrills.
want to go to that too.
I'm curious.
Me
Curious
too.
to see where he's at.
Mhm.
You know, I was trying to think who we'd maybe get a hold of Craig Stang to see if I can get some contact information with him, because he's about the only one from the old school I haven't got to talk to yet. I'm looking forward. I want to go back one more. Going back to, I think it was probably about 91, 92, when the France thing, maybe 91, you brought a group of French people over. I remember seeing them at a show or two in Frederick.
Yeah, that was Les Medus. That
Okay.
was Les Medus. They were there. That was my funkadelic, psychedelic, original rock French band.
How long were they in the States for?
They came over for maybe about a month. A couple of them stayed a little bit longer and like rented some vehicles and traveled around. And we did a show down in D.C. At a place called Heaven and Hell at the time. Upstairs was Heaven and downstairs was Hell.
I know that bar.
And then we played in a basement house party there
in Frederick.
Yeah.
I think that's the one I remember.
And then we went around sightseeing and we went up to New York and went to CBGB's and we went fishing down on the Eastern Shore and did some stuff like that. Hung out, just did some sightseeing stuff. It was all of their first times being in America. But they loved it here. I think the people that came and saw us really loved them,
Yeah, I
and
thought
they
it
all
was-
partied.
yeah.
And I think all of them either sucked or fucked some Americans somewhere along the way, a couple of times probably. But they all had a good time. And
Kevin, what genres of music have you played publicly? I know we've talked about punk. What are some of the other genres? And same question with you.
Well, most of it has to. I can only say it's got to be punk and rock and roll.
Punk and rock.
I mean, there isn't any. I didn't play any jazz or anything like that.
Nothing rockabilly.
Nothing. No, I really didn't play any rockabilly. I mean, I sort of played some rockabilly, but I was never in a rockabilly band. You know how the left. I mean, they were, and you know how the Skeptics were. Skeptics were like no. They were doing a different thing, and that's what we. I think they were doing a new fashion type of music. And it was and that's the thing. Like I want to do, but basically that's it, Don. I didn't play any more than punk or rock and roll, and that's it. You can put it all, smash it all together if you want. So,
Are you a Snallygaster? Who's on the Skeptic Snallygaster?
Dennis. Dennis is on the Snallygaster.
Okay.
Yeah, we did No Bones About It, but we recorded a cassette, but we never put it in an album. Yeah.
What about you, Andy?
I have that cassette, by the way.
What influences do you, or what different genres have you played in? Because I've heard you mention a couple of different musical genres.
It's all been original except for the Mad Daddies, which had a couple original songs, but we did a lot of covers. That was in France, and that was 50s rockabilly or rock and roll shit. All that Elvis Presley, Gene Vincent, and because I could make some money because they actually paid to come and see an American sing rock and roll and rockabilly. They loved that over there. They really from an outsider's perspective, appreciated that subculture of music. That to them was like what American culture was all about, was that 50s rock and roll. So we gave them we did a couple, 3 or 4 originals, but mostly it was covers. But everything else has been original music. Now, some of the stuff I played early on with Dave Lance, because he played the keyboards a lot, it initially came out sounding very Doorsy, psychedelic, a little more
you
jam.
can add that on there too. We did a little psychedelic
Jam
stuff
band type stuff, and longer songs. Some of our early guitar players just used to jam. We did a lot more, maybe what's the word? No vocals type of songs, just instrumental type of pieces. Yeah. A lot of heavy psychedelics. There was a lot of LSD still going around in the 80s, and I was all up into that. So a lot of that jam band stuff early on, and then as I got more into the sounds of I started getting into punk more. The songs are shorter, quicker, faster but more condensed. So I started, getting into more of that kind of stuff as I got in with the Voodoo Love Gods. And but then when I got back to France, it was almost back to, we weren't like a jam band, but the songs were longer and they were a little more groovier, and we had a keyboard player, so we were doing a little more psychedelic. It could go a lot different places, but it was more like dance, psychedelic dance rock or something like that. You saw us play.
There's always been a danceable element to the music.
Well, I've always liked upbeat stuff. Always
yeah.
wanted to be upbeat. I really, if nothing else, okay, you're going to tell me I'm going to do this for my life, I'm never going to make any money. That's okay. But I want people to at least have some freaking fun and enjoy it. And one of my criticisms of culture right now is that the music has, separated men from women. You don't see men and women dancing anymore. It's like some sort of homoerotic fest where you just got a bunch of guys rubbing up on each other. And let me tell you, when I was coming up in school, there's nothing more that I wanted to do was to get with someone from the opposite sex and get a chance to like shake my moneymaker all over as much as possible. And that was, to me, like, that was what going out to a dance was about. That's why a band played, so that you would, meet the opposite sex and be able to dance, and just get to know them and have fun like that. Because I really got a lot of energy off of that, off of people.
Could you say the men's magnetism? A little shy to do that?
I don't know, but it seems like culturally we've that's broken down.
Let's bring it back.
You never see people dancing, together anymore. Sometimes it's an individual thing, and we get that, but still it's hard to get men and women dancing. Now I tell you, in Europe, like with the rockabilly stuff, the 50 stuff, we had people into swing dancing, and oh my God, there was this whole subculture over there that was in the living, breathing, everything from the 40s and 50s era, hairdo, lipstick, cars, swing dancing. That was big time. That cultural element was still going on. Longer dresses, but like a lot more glamorous,
lipstick,
sexy
tattoos
looks for the women. Yeah, tattoos.
Lipstick.
And that's kind of big out in, let's say, L.A. or maybe in the Vegas era. I don't know how.
It definitely is. It definitely is.
Swing, rockabilly stuff. That stuff was really fun, and I wanted to do something new. I didn't want to just have to go backwards to do that. It should be pushing forwards. But somehow, something that's going on in our culture is not allowing that to happen. And a lot of it, I have some criticism about some of the what's called punk these days, where you got a lot of fast beats, a lot of screaming into the microphone. It's losing its musicality, and it's turning into some sort of, noise assault.
Noise machine.
That, creates, the emotions of anger, rage, and aggression, as opposed to
feeling
fun, light, dance, have a good time. And, man, life is so stressful. I've been on battlefields, man. There's so much noise and aggression that can come out of a freaking battlefield that I never want to experience that shit. I'd never put myself into that voluntarily ever again.
Well,
even just daily stress of getting up and going to work can be. Traffic is fucking stressful, aggressive cars going fast, weaving, bobbing. There's all this kind of shit going on just to go to work anymore. I don't want that. But, for fun. I want to lighten up, have a good time. But I mean, energetic. I mean, so sometimes I think
it's not about violence.
We're really kind of just poppy or dancey. But man, Fat Pat came up to me the other night, and when we played, and he said, "You guys are punk as hell," and I was like, "We are." I was like, "I don't know," but it's like. But a lot of the other bands, even the metal bands, they don't really play that fast. It's all the beats are kind of slower. They're heavier because they're trying to get heavy.
They really liked us. I know those guys and all that, and I was, I was happy. So.
You guys both have this amazing stage presence and this stage craft. Are there any secrets to that? I mean, how did that evolve? What are the things that you try to carry up on the stage for your audience?
I just say you feel it's your own feeling. That's what we're trying to our drummer. We want him to really just feel the himself. In the heart. Just it's just automatic. You either have it or you don't, right? To move around and that's the way you get a crowd going.
Well, so there's a couple little I'm going to say, I don't know if there's secrets, but there's a couple little processes for me that I like to go through. Okay, I was raised a Catholic, all right, and I was an altar boy, and went to church. And as an altar boy, I had a outfit called a cassock you had to wear. It was like a 2 or 3 piece robe, and the priests were in robes, and everybody was dressed up, and it was this big elaborate ceremony. But you knew you went to church when you did all that shit. You saw it, you did it. I couldn't imagine going to a Catholic mass without the priest being in a robe. You know what I mean? It was like, if he was in street clothes, it wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't have the same
that's why
meaning.
it's kind of funny looking at the way they dress now.
So what we try to do is, although we really like the kitschy, I like Beatles in all in the same exact clothes, uniform. We don't always go that far, but we like to have at least a theme. Black and red is one of our big themes. Okay, look, just black and red tonight, or whatever combination of it. We try to keep a theme because when we're creating that musical experience, we want it to be not like a religious ceremony, but you have to have some triggers to get into and penetrate the unconscious of the crowd. And if you look like everybody else, then already you're fighting an uphill battle to get some credibility, to have people believe that you're going to bring them something that they should experience, that they should stop for a minute and pay attention to. But when you come in like the Drivin Beats, hey, you know what I'm saying? You've seen us pop into a room. Look at this guy, Buddy Love. Doesn't he look like something's going to happen with this motherfucker?
Yeah.
He's going to pull out a knife, or he's going to pull out a guitar, one or the other, and something's going to happen, and it catches your attention. And so you have to establish something that's going to get people to look at you, start talking about you, to want to pay attention to you. They give you that time out of their life. Everybody's time is valuable. I mean, time is money. And I thank you guys for having us here and taking your time to even pay attention to what we have to say. But you want to make it worthwhile. You got to say, hey, we're going to bring you something that's worthwhile.
Even the Ramones, they did the leather jacket.
Same thing.
And I always thought, even when I was a kid, I always thought like entertainments did that. They dress a certain unique way compared to the ordinary Joe. And I said, so if I'm going to do that, then I need to come up with a plan about how I'm going to dress, and hopefully the band will coordinate. But once it gets a little bit chilly, we're going to start wearing our coats and the tie and all that, the Beatle boots and stuff.
Sometimes in the crowd too, where it depends on where you go. In Europe, people dress up when they go out, and that we want it to be an experience. If somebody's going to take the time out of their life to come and see you, because we're fighting against a lot. We're fighting against the internet. We're fighting against porn on the internet. Come on. Why would you come out and see us when you could just stay home and watch porn and go on YouTube and listen to any music, even the Drivin Beats that you wanted to, without even bothering to get out of your house? You can do whatever drugs you want to do right there.
A lot different.
Do whatever you want to do at your house. Do it all. See it all, including pornography. Why bother risking coming out to see somebody play? So if you're going to come out, we want to at least
they
try
can
to
wait
make
for someone
it worthwhile.
A song.
Set up an environment that makes you come out of yourself a little bit, to disengage from all that other crap.
When I talk about when we use the term arts and music, right, that's the part, that there's this complete visual component to what you guys are doing. And I've had to step back and watch Andy do your thing, and the way you lit everything on the 27th at Area 31, I'm thinking, wow. I mean, Andy's already envisioned this. He already has it coming into his mind. He knows what he wants it to look like, and then you make that reality. That's as much part of that's visual art. Your album covers are your visual arts, your flyers, your posters, all of those kind of things.
Well, including us when we play. And that's where, and I'm glad you brought up the term art, because we're we're still fighting this war with perception that separates music from the arts. And I think with your help, Don, you're helping us drive a wedge into people's minds, into the Frederick art community, that says, hey, there's nothing different than hanging a painting on a wall here.
It's all
there's a lot of time that went into that, a lot of creativity for that visual piece. But when we're trying to do the same thing musically, and with us as people dress in a certain way to set a certain mood, and then to articulate that through our music. We're not the best public speakers in the world. A lot of times, in fact, I'm really shy and I hate crowds unless I'm performing in front of them. But I hate being a member of a crowd for some reason. If they freak me out, I don't like being in a crowd.
I feel alone in the crowd.
Yeah, we're alone in a crowd. That's why, for some reason, I feel safe if I'm even in a crowd separated from them by the music and by other stuff. And maybe a lot of musicians feel that same way. I'm not sure, but there's just as much effort that goes into what we're doing. We got to practice every freaking week, you know, to get it and to keep it where we're at. Because, man, I'll forget a song in a heartbeat, you know, the words and how to play it and all that stuff. And when you're performing it, you can't be thinking about what's the next word. It all has to come like spontaneously. And it is a magic moment when you're playing something on the bass. Words are coming out of my mouth. I'm still smiling and dancing around or try to engage the audience. Like 3 or 4 like activities in your brain start firing at the same time, and it puts you in kind of a zen moment when all that's good. But it has to come naturally. You can't be thinking about it. It has to just flow.
I want to say, you know, up there at the last gig that we put Creekside in, you were going like, yeah, Creekside in. What? They quickly got engaged with us. Quickly. And then I said, I better be saying something too, you know, to get
Creekside in Hagerstown was the best place we've played in a long time. The crowd up there was great. We love Creekside.
I got a couple personalities I want to throw to both of you guys about working with them. But I'll say this. It was our mutual friend, or it is our mutual friend, Skiz Sazik, who in 1993 was the one who was able for me to connect the dots that music and art are all one thing, that it's a symbiotic relationship or whatever you want to say. But that experience was the first time where I could really see how everything is one, that they're not different. Okay, I want to talk to Kevin for.
Did you have intercourse with Skiz in order to come to that conclusion?
No, unfortunately, but I did hang out at the mansion a few times, which was quite a blast. Kevin, let's talk about your brother.
That means you probably did, but you don't remember.
I just don't remember. In one of his coffins at some point. Kevin, let's talk about your brother. Let's talk about Brian. And, you know, I love the story because I've heard it from his perspective. He brings home a bass and gives you an instrument. This creativity that exists inside of is it just you two that play music or started playing music in your family? Who else plays music?
Well, my mom played piano, and my sister took piano, and my dad played harmonica. But it was, he just bought the bass, and there it was. And I said, so I'll take it. And he was in the Air, actually not the Air Force, but no, so that's how it all started, because he got me the bass, and that's when I started hearing what punk rock. What is this punk rock? And then I was going like, oh yeah, I wanna learn how to play it. And I had the records. I'd be in my room and I'd play the records. I try to play along with it and all that. And I was the one that just pursued it and kept on going with it.
What's that creative relationship like with you and him? Have there been good times, bad times?
I'd say it's individual. He's his guy and I'm my guy. So it's not like you had the Astro or the brothers that were the Stooges. I'm pretty much I see it. He sees it his way. I see it my way. So and
so the two creative paths are divergent.
Yeah,
I got you.
So I'm not a follower of anyone. I don't want to follow because I felt like, and even now that I wanted to. I was always in the sort of the background, but I was always the one giving people material, right. And I'm like, I'm not giving people material anymore. It's all for me and our band, and I'm gonna be the one that's gonna, sing it and present it in the Drivin Beats, and that's where I stand out.
You both sing in the Beats.
Yeah.
You both sing.
Yeah, we both sing.
So you're singing on Lies, right? You open the Lies video that I shared. I love that song. I think it's a fantastic song. Is that an early song for you guys?
I'm going to tell you how. Yeah, it is.
Well, I mean, it came really just recent, just within the
it-
last
June-
year.
It's got the old
2 years ago.
drummer in there.
Yeah.
2016, when Scott Ritten died. Bart and I, it was the summertime, it was a couple of months later, and I had his acoustic out there, and I started saying No Lies for, and I said, well, I have to finish this, Bart, and give it to those guys. But we recorded, I'm telling you, it came in 2016. By the time we recorded in early 2017, that's where it came from. Because we were thinking about, every time I hear that song, I think about where I was. I was with Bart, sitting in the yard, and I had his acoustic, and I was playing some of the chords. I wasn't done the whole song. I was just playing, some of the stuff. I said, maybe I can get something out of that, And I kept on saying, like, this is for you, Scott, So that's where that song came from. So it's been around at least 3 years now,
Do you, with going to Brian's subject, your creative relationship with him goes back to the mid '80s.
Yeah, we when Pat brought me into the Voodoos around '86, that's when I met Brian and started working with him. I hadn't done anything with him before then. Well, we played with them, and I was in another band, but I never hadn't worked with him or anything.
Do you enjoy the creative relationship with him? Is it?
Well, I've always liked working with Brian. He could really, and in the Love Gods, he didn't play any instruments initially. He did for a little bit later, but he was unhesitant to put any kind of subject matter forward to the audience in the most convincing way possible. And most of the songs the Voodoo Love Gods wrote and sang about was death and sex in America, Dance of Death. It was about killing girls,
Black
hanging
days.
yourself, black days, getting all effed up, and just, some pretty, dark side material coming in a hard rock and roll-y, spooky package, you know what I mean? And he could deliver that stuff very convincingly to any kind of audience.
He didn't.
And he didn't take shit off anybody either.
He didn't come in till doing something musically until it was in the left. That was right in like the summer of 1983. Prior to that, I was getting better and better on the bass. And then until Jim said, I said, well, let's give him a try. Because there was only 3 in the left. And, Jim worked with them and all that stuff. And then, the rest, is, as they say, is history. But he has his idea about what he wants to do. And I have my idea about what I want to do. So the roads are completely different. But you know what? That's fine. Because everyone has their own outlook on and creativity on what they want to do. So, but I wanted to be credited with some of the things that I felt like I wasn't. Because some of the material that I was part of, let's give him credit. So now I'm all out there from giving all everything I got right now. So,
Hey, Buddy Love here is coming out of the shadows.
yeah. Well, I'm actually turning into the professor. When he sings "Old Black Magic." Did you ever see that movie? The Nutty Professor, the one with Jerry Lewis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
got
Remember when he was
7 minutes on this tape.
lifting weights and they went down and his arms were, then next scene you saw him, he was laying in bed and he's scratching the bottom of his feet because he stretched his arms out real long. That was a great movie. Buddy Love, that was a great movie.
I love the stage things, and that's a newer part of this because I knew you had adapted Drew Starr, but with the Buddy Love one, I think you just started.
Threw it out there.
It works. I love it.
Yeah,
Kevin, I call him Killer. So we make up names for him all the time that begin with the word K, letter K.
Yeah.
K.
So he's K-Bomb, K-Action was recent.
You know what's funny? Because
Killer. But
my cousin-
recently we were joking around
yeah.
about the movie Buddy Love.
I'll
That's
take that
what
any day
I
of the
just
week.
I love
started
it.
hitting
Yeah, it's
some
a
that
good
one.
one. It's fun. It's funny.
Yeah.
It's
So my
comfortable.
cousin came to the show, and his name is Terry Love, and I said, Andy, this is. I said his real name.
I said Buddy Love. He said we're cousins.
Yeah, we're cousins. That's Terry Love.
I got about 5 minutes on this tape before I have to switch out. So let me throw a question out there. Another personality. You've created music and you've worked with Jimmy Swope. You've worked with Jimmy Swope. What's that creative process like? What's it like to work with Jimmy?
worked with him. He had his material. Everything was there. And then, but on the new stuff that when the left got together later on, he thought, you know, that maybe if Brian and I are going to show him some music that it would veer away from. And I was like, you know what? So he's pretty stubborn, and I'm going to say it, what he wanted. So I did what he wanted to do. I did what he wanted to do, and I did that in a lot of bands, what they wanted to do. Guess what? Now you're going to do what we want to do. So I'm turning this thing around. So I really didn't have an opportunity to work, but knock heads with him sometimes, you know. But I love Jim.
Yeah,
you know,
Jim's great.
I love Jim.
Yeah. Jim's very proprietary. In fact, I was talking to Brian. He called me last night, and somebody got a hold of him and was asking about some Voodoo Love God or Left material to use in a upcoming slasher horror movie. And Brian told him straight up, well, hey, unless you're giving Jim money, he's not going to let you use any of his material, because that's how it's framed.
Yeah.
But like the Voodoo Love Gods, we were more like a collective. Everybody kicked in with the songs and
that's
the
what
lyrics.
I like. Yeah, that's right.
Nobody, it's the band owns it, not it's not my
One
song
person.
or Brian's song or Pat's. It's just
Much
the Voodoo
more
Love Gods.
collective, right.
And I said, well, I got the early Voodoo shit. They can whatever. We'll just send it to them, and they can pick whatever they want. But Brian was like, Jim's not going to let them have any of his material. And that's the problem I think Kevin had with the whole scene, and even Brian, was that it was Jim's song, it was his fans, he's got all the rights, it's his shit.
Yeah.
I played with Jim. He joined the Love Gods for a little while. I was living with him in Leitersburg up there, but he didn't bring any new material in. He just played our material that the Love Gods had written. So he was part of that Love God thing and played bass,
that's
and
what he did,
a little bit of guitar, but he never added or brought any of his stuff to the table.
But let me say something. He was the one who played the drums at the 930 Club with the rock, the Monster Rock. But guess what? All the stuff that we did, he loved it. And I was thinking, like, well, some of this material that we're doing, I frankly thought was just as good as anything that he ever did. But as when we got together in 2008, it was about 2012 when we stopped. And I told Brian, I said, well, I don't know where it's going. I said, but it looks like we're not going to do any new, and he's not allowing us to. And I said, and we're doing a lot of covers. And I said, I'm turned off by this. And I said, it pretty much ran its course. And I wasn't mad. Nobody was mad. It was just that I said, I just need to. I want to start writing my own stuff and do my own thing. And that's how it turned. So I never really worked with him. It's just like, hey, I got the music. Here it is. Yes, I'm playing it. So that's what I did. So.
He gave me a little bit of a ream-in when that article came out in the Frederick News Post, the one that was so horribly fucked up about, well, I think it was Kate Masters' story, the very first one that introduced the series. And he was a little bent out of shape about it. I had no control over what that girl wrote. And, you know, he was real happy with everything on the 27th. And at the end, he was like, anything you're doing, I'm in. So I was like, okay. I mean, this is all about trying to showcase and you know, give you guys like a beautiful platform to do your thing, you know. So I'm excited about what we're doing this coming Saturday. It's only a week away. Showcases you guys.
Well, the 20th, it's, you know, we're calling it the spawn of the Voodoo Love Gods, because it's got Pat Fable, original Voodoo member, is in Cafe de los Muertos. I'm Drew Starr's playing the drums, which I was a drummer in the Voodoo, so we're both supporting Cafe.
And
then Brian and Eric, Voodoo Love Gods.
Yeah.
Well,
take a pause.
Go ahead and switch.
Pause.
And then I was in there just as long as anybody else, but I never considered myself, you know, Voodoo Love God. I'm just an individual.
Let me switch tapes real quick. You're an eccentric. You're an eccentric. I'm an eccentric. It takes a certain level of self-awareness for us to, you know, have that. Fuck the world. I'm me. I don't need the rest. So let's talk about Deadly Spawn for a while. And then I think Mr. Lumizer might have some questions that he's going to present to the three of us. So you're on Deadly Spawn, and Deadly Spawn has been the record that, and I think Deadly Spawn is released in 1986. It has an incredible collection of these young Frederick artists who, and you think about this, this is why I look at this generation as being so important. Your generation, coming from that Frederick area, you guys make up your own original rock and roll bands. Now that's fairly commonplace, but in that era, it was unique. You know, you basically had hippie cover bands, heavy metal cover bands, but then you have this unique generation, this community, and what Rob Smith, the bass player for the Voodoo Love Gods, called the web. Yeah. This web of interweaving personalities. So on that album, the Skeptics are on that. Yeah. On the Deadly Spawn.
What song was that? Do you remember?
I'm not sure what song it is, but you wouldn't have been. That would have been.
I don't
the
think
Ghost
so.
of Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, I think Dennis was on. Dennis was on that.
Subterraneans are on that.
Yeah.
That's Rob
Hammer
Pierce.
of Love. That's their only song that they ever had recorded. Was that or put out? Was Hammer of Love.
I have a cassette by the Subterraneans.
That's the only song that got released anywhere.
Oh well, maybe yeah.
Which is a great song, actually.
And I was with that album. Name some of the other personalities that are part of our program that are on that. There's Pat Fable. There's Jimmy Swope, Kevin Sefcik, Brian Sefcik, Andy Roth. You're in there.
No, well, I wasn't on any Deadly. I wasn't on anything from the Deadly Spawn.
Ben Steen. Ben
on.
Steen was on. Do you know Ben Steen?
Yeah, but he's not doing.
No, but
he's not part of. He's not part of the show.
No.
He's on there.
Yeah, he's on there, and actually Ben was the one when we got to Skeptics reunited in 2010. So it was the five of us. It was Andy and Steve and Dennis and Ben and me. And when I came up there to play the 4 songs, Dennis got on the keyboard and it sounded really good. You know, with the five of us playing up there, because Ben played guitar, and actually Andy was playing my Rickenbacker, and I was playing my Rickenbacker, the white one. He was playing my guitar, the Rickenbacker. But that's something that's that was something I'll always.
The Skeptic documentary and the Skeptic show at the Weinberg. What year is that?
2010.
2010. So almost a decade ago.
Almost a decade ago.
And the personalities in that film most of them are part of our program. Craig Stang is in that film.
Yeah.
Fable's in that film. Blickenstaff's in that film. So I appreciate you doing that.
Yeah, you know who else was in that film? Was Brian Forsythe. And he plays for the Kicks. And also a couple of guys from the Slicky Boys, I believe.
Slicky Boys.
You know,
First underground band I ever saw.
Kevin's in that too.
Yeah. The Velvet. Was there anyone from the Velvet Monkeys in that? Steve Blickenstaff would know from head to toe.
I don't think so.
He wouldn't. Well, I don't know. They were good friends.
But I want to just take a step back.
Okay.
We were talking about the Deadly Spawn record that was put out by Bonafide Records, who's run by Mr. Rick Knoll, and we gotta talk about why that record even happened. And it was because without Rick Knoll, none of that shit would have got out there. So I met Rick, after that record, a little bit later on. He's an eccentric from Pennsylvania, Rick Knoll. Rick, a record collector. He sells records, buys records. But Rick Knoll, smokes a lot of dope. I don't know that anybody ever saw any money from Rick Knoll, but he found ways to get money, to put stuff together, and to get it distributed. He had a very good distribution. I think it's because he gave everybody shit and never asked them for money back. He just here's 10 records, here's 10 records, here's 10 records. But, he got it out there and got it circulated, and because of that, that's why the Skeptics record came out, because they got money from somebody to put out their record.
The Snallygaster.
Yeah, the Snallygaster. Yeah. The Voodoos didn't, but we just came up with our own money, and then he found a distributor and helped distribute it all. So without Rick Knoll, none of the archival vinyl stuff would have happened.
Yeah. I very much want to interview him.
For future reference, you should get a hold of him, and he's still around apparently.
Fascinating that whoever he was would take the money and the resources, what we're talking about, time, energy, and all that, and record these young people who have very little to offer other than their talent and their energy, and to distribute that. And he really helps to create an analog history of that generation.
So here's to you, Rick.
We'll ever see you again.
By the way, you probably still owe us some money somewhere online. That's all right.
All right, my final question before I pitch it over to Christopher Loomiser. This is one of the ones I've asked everybody. You've been doing this for so long. Why, Kevin, is this important to you? What is this thing that's inside of you that drives you to make music and art for an entire lifespan? What is it? Why?
I guess it's the love of what you do. And then when you hear something that sounds good, especially if somebody says, "Oh my God, I really love that." So I was going, "Wow, she really likes what we are. He really likes what I've done." But I think that's the main part is that's the drive inside of me now is more than ever, because I feel like everything's behind me. The marriage, the kid, the raising, all that, it's all behind me now. It's me, and I'm not married or anything like that, but I have a lot of time to think about what I want to do, and I said, I'm dedicating myself. I'm dedicating the rest of my life to what we're doing to our music. I want to show people, that we had the Drivin Beats are not going to be forgotten. Not around Frederick. We're gonna make our mark. That's how I feel about it. And I don't know what drives me. Whatever it is inside of me, and it's just a love of doing what I'm doing. That's my art. So,
what's the longest you've gone without playing publicly, without being in a band?
I guess when I was married, and that was a pretty long time. That was a real long time. 9 years. I didn't do anything.
What did it do to you psychologically to not have this creative outlet?
Well, first of all, it never went away. When I first got married, I got married in 1988, and even when it was still in my blood to do it, that's why I did that recording with Steve and so my wife could sing and play keys. She's really good, but she wanted more of the just being a husband to her, but I always had my guitars there. But then once we had our child, I kind of pushed all that away, and I was like, well, married now, you're going to have to make this thing work. But then, things happened, so I would say it was when I was married, but soon as I left, it all came, I was reeling it all back in. I called Brian and said, what are you guys doing? I'm available. He's the only one that I knew. I wanted to go somewhere. I would have started my own band if I would have had the personnel, but there was no one around, so yeah, when I was married, at least 8-9 years when I didn't play out or anything. So a very long time.
It is. Andy, why do you do this?
Well, I know exactly why. I don't know what it is, but I know why. When I was pretty young and elementary school and all that, I was trying to play music and I was experimenting with a lot of drugs. I basically opened myself up to the universe. I used to do this by sitting next to trees initially, and I'd sit next to a tree, and I had this little penny whistle, and I said, okay, tree, you're my connection here. I'm just gonna open my mind up, and I'm gonna let the essence of music come through me. I'm just gonna open it up. I'm gonna step back, because Andy Roth doesn't know how to play this penny whistle. I'm just going to open my mind up, but I know that there is a collective out there, conscious somewhere, that knows how to play this instrument. I'm going to open myself up and just start and let it play. You can play through me. I'm going to be your microphone. And I started, and I could play the penny whistle. I learned how to play that. I did it with the drums. Keith Moon was dead. I said, Keith Moon, if you're out there, I'm going to open myself up to you. You can come in and play the drums through me. And I learned, Keith Moon taught me how to play the drums. And now that I opened that up and made those openings, I can't turn that shit off. I cannot. I wake up in the middle of the night thinking of songs to write down, and I have to do it. It's like I can't let it go. I can't not do it. I'd probably kill somebody eventually, or kill myself, if I didn't have some outlet for this flow that I've opened the floodgates for to come through and play out. I probably would, but I wouldn't, because even without people, I'll do it myself. I'll just do anything to play for some reason, and I just can't turn it off.
What's the longest that you've been away from music and performing publicly?
Well, I was in the military for a long time, so there was a number of spells, but all through that time I had musical equipment at my house. I'd work on stuff. I was playing mostly the bass and drums before I went in the Army. I had a few guitar lessons when I was, a kid, but once I got in the Army, I said I want to learn how to play the guitar, so I really started hitting the guitar really hard, and that's when I started doing my solo self-accompanied thing on the guitar. And then I just turned it kind of off when I met up with Kevin, because we didn't want to do two guitar. We needed to get it off the ground to bass, guitar, and drums at least, so I kind of went back to the bass, which I really like. But then the couple years when I was in California, again, I picked the guitar up and started jamming it. So usually, it's easier, you get more melodies out of it. If you just have to play one instrument, the guitar, you're going to get a lot more melodies out of. But Kevin just plays it better than me, so that's why I play the bass.
No, sometimes it's discouraging when you can't. That's the thing with me. I was like, God, I just can't find the right people to hook up with. And maybe they should be all different. Knowing that I know, but you feel that way along the way. But now everything starts to fall in place, and I feel that it is. He knows which monster too.
Do you guys want to stretch, go to the bathroom, or anything like that?
I don't have to go to the bathroom. I could stand up.
Yeah, we'll take a minute. Then, Chris, you have a couple follow-up questions?
You might want to pause your camera.
Yeah, I'll let you guys stretch.
This is the same for you, but you step through one door, then there's three more. And
But that can only happen if there's diversity. So you can step through and there's something to go through on the other side. And it seems like what's happens a lot is that I don't know if things are as diverse as they used to be. I know there's a lot of small sub micro genres of music, but they're not all accessible really, and they're not all that well known. And if you're only getting fed through the media a certain message, a certain type of music, that's all that you're going to know about unless you start digging. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I know one of the things that Mr. Love here and myself do, we consider ourselves like musical archivists. And we don't do that many covers now because we just don't have that much time. But we were playing a year or so ago, we were playing a little bit longer sets and we had a lot more covers, but they were all obscure music from the 60s by bands you've never even heard of before. And it's just trying to find those nuggets of great material and bring them forward and breathe life into them and maybe introduce a new audience to that song.
Okay.
A lot of times they think that it's
And
our
two of them
song, it's
real
an
quick
original.
one was called Jezebel, and one was called by Everly Brothers, A Price of Love. And these are great. People would love them. I'm telling
when
you.
I'm talking to Will Rice and about trying to do phase 2, what we move on after Frederick 2, I want to try to get sponsorship. So like we're talking about, I could give at least every band $200 who comes in part of the show, that's there. But to try to incorporate that into some type of workshops with the young people of School of Rock and with Shepherd to do exactly what you guys are saying. If you were to turn on people to this obscure music or an obscure musician, I was thinking about, I believe, but I don't know this for a fact, but Pat Fable has a strong knowledge of Velvet Underground. Pat could probably talk about the Velvet Underground and that aspect of the Andy Warhol scene in a way I never could.
I know a lot of the Velvet Underground's music. I like some of their stuff,
I was in the Velvet Underground.
Which one were you, John Cale?
I was John Cale.
All right, Chris, throw us some questions.
And a little bit of Nico. It was Nico.
This is mainly I want to start it off like this. This is mainly towards Don and you, Andy, because Don pretty much said you're the co-conspirator in all of this.
Absolutely.
Why document the underground music scene? What got you guys started in wanting to do this project?
Well, I think, from my perspective anyway, I've been fighting the underground music war for as long as I can remember, trying to get original local music recognized just by our local audience. I don't care. We get actually more recognition by international people than local.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to be able to play in my own hometown and not get blocked because I'm not playing a certain list of covers that are demanded by a bar, because most of the bar guys, especially in Frederick, only want you to play cover songs. You have to be whatever the genre is of the day. You have to fit into that pigeonhole.
And now it's 90s music.
And they don't want to hear original shit. I want to hear whatever's on the top 10 radio airplay this week. You know what I mean? That's what we want in here. And that's it. And I've been fighting, in fact, all of us have, fighting a war to get some appreciation and respect for like local talent. And it's very akin to like local artist type stuff. But you know, you make money typically as a musician by playing in places, so you need to have that relationship with an establishment, and there's so much pushback, and there always has been. There's kind of, I'm going to still say there's less nowadays, but there's not a lot less. There's very few. There's Guido's in Frederick. They're the what's the Cafe Nola also will let
Cafe
some
Nola will
go do some stuff, but they still get like bands from outside to come in. They don't get, and even the Frederick art community, they don't get local bands to play. They reach out to DC and Baltimore, and we're going to get some bigger band to come in and play instead of utilizing or supporting their own local resources, which are, you know, local musicians that live there in their own
You
town.
know what?
It's sort of like that farm to market concept with food. Support your local farmer, buy close local stuff, support your local artist, support your local musician too. Come on, let's support all that scene. So by you know, the whole documenting is just another wave, a more social media wave probably of pushing recognition for local artists, local music in this mid-Maryland area.
He was asking about the Raw Bar. Now we played the Raw Bar back in 1999, but they had changed. It's called the Blue Side now. I couldn't think of it.
Blue Side. They just
Who'd you play with in '99?
I was playing with the Voodoo Love.
I thought you were.
And I'll never forget this too. It's the first time it ever happened. Who's playing with us?
Eric, it was Shaft is on that bill. The Voodoo Love Gods. There's a '98 show, and then there's a Halloween, I think, of '99. And then we end up doing a show or two at Pepe's.
Okay, but I was wondering who we were playing with. But this is the first time this ever happened to me. I remember my brother Jeff was there. He came and saw, and Scott and Barbara. But this had been a long time. I was married. Might have been the first gig I came back out to play. But we were playing, and there was a lot of people up front. And I wasn't looking. There was this girl who was like taking a shirt. There's a couple of them. Like they wanted to take my shirt off, and I was going like, God, this is the first time that ever. You know, it kind of startled me. I was going, what's going on? You know, and they were like pulling at my shirt. I had this black sleeve shirt, was a little stretchy, but that's a place. I'm telling you right now, that would be a great place to play. You should see it now, Don. If you haven't been there, we'll go in there and have a beer and look around.
But back to the question, and maybe trying to get right to the point, is that war and punching a hole in people's perceptions. We're trying to just get some more acceptance of local underground music for the generations that are going to come out of the School of Rock, for that kid that's in high school today that has these ideas and wants to put stuff forward, instead of them not having a place to perform that, we're hoping to spearhead and make some establishments, you know, make it there. People want to come and see us, they want to buy beer, it's a good place to play, so other bands can kind of surge in there behind us, because we won't be around forever. That next wave or the future
like
generations of underground music will have a place to continue to maybe foster another genre of music at some point.
That being said,
Can I follow up that? Okay, because I want to talk just strictly as a filmmaker. So for me, this began in August of last year. Our friend Skid Sazek was presenting a film at Area 31, and I asked Andy to come and say a few words. That led to Andy and Kevin performing at Area 31 as part of the Blue Elephant. We did a special party to recognize its 20th anniversary as an artist co-op stand in Frederick. And it was incredible. I mean, well attended. We had a great audience. It was epic. And I was thinking, you think that is something? Let me take you back 10 years. Let me take you back when Frederick really became part of Washington, D.C. I think it's your generation that looks at itself as part of the metropolitan area. You talked about playing at 9:30. You're influenced by those shows. You're living in Baltimore. You're friends with Skiz. You're going to Towson. You guys bring that urban feel to Frederick, Maryland. It becomes so many artists end up in Frederick because of that scene that you guys forge. Mike Mendez, who has a studio downstairs, who teaches at Shepherd, he ends up and you met him back in '89. He ends up in downtown Frederick, coming from the Corcoran School of Art. I was thinking of Jeff Smith, the sculptor. There's a lot of
Sky Hissey.
There's a lot of artists in Frederick in the late 80s, 90s who are, heavily influenced by DC, which is our nation's capital. So immediately, if you're good enough to play in DC, you're good enough to be on a world stage. And I think every artist in Frederick wanted to be looked at like that.
I don't know how we got the gig down there. I forget. 930 Club. But you know what? In back to Scott, when he lived above Carroll Creek, and that's when we were and that was 1980, 79, when 80, 81 when we moved in there, and that's when we met John Hornack. But I wouldn't tell you the story about that. But the door, as we had these, I was wearing a leather jacket, and my hair was all dark and it was all spiked up. There wasn't anybody that I knew except for Ben Steen is the one I saw. There wasn't anybody around I saw walking downtown that was dressed like that, at that time, unless they were just home or they were really young and they couldn't get out. But we were the only ones. And the door where you walk up to this house, I had a sticker, Sex Pistols, we just slapped it right on the front of it. It was all beat up, and that was some early stuff. And Frederick was a different time then. Yes. 40 years ago, it was a different time, and that nothing was going on. So
Buddy Love is a punk rock fashionista.
Yeah, and that's just the way it was then. So I started early, and nothing was going to change. But then all of a sudden, it just quickly went like this, and then, saw the Skeptics and all that. But anyway, I think there's enough people around that like underground. I think maybe more. Exiles is a good example.
More now. I definitely see a much larger scene in Frederick than we would have known in the 80s or the 90s.
Mm-hmm. Now this goes. It's kind of following up to what you were saying, Andrew. But this follow-up kind of goes to both you and Kevin, in a way. Has social media like Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube helped y'all see a newer audience, a younger audience, and get the word out better, or has it been more of a hindrance to...
Well, we might have two separate answers, but I'm pro the social media. We got in the top, last year, we were in the top 10 for the year with No Lies in Australia. For a radio station, Banks, Australia, we were in their top 10 list for the whole year last year with that song No Lies. You couldn't find us anywhere in America, but because of social media, which we did not have access to back in the 80s or even the 90s, but now I can if someone likes us in Australia enough, we can build a fan base over there, through the internet, and be doing stuff all over the planet. So your potential audience is no longer just restricted to the local market. You can, if you're doing recordings, you can get your music and stuff out to people all over the world.
Just as for discussion purposes, having this chance to speak to, even though independent, if you want to use that word, musicians such as yourself, with the changes that are now happening with the music scene, that more and more people are seemingly going to streaming services like Spotify, and you see Apple doing the same, Amazon. Granted, I have to look into it a little bit more myself. I'll put that disclaimer out there. Could something like that be more of a hindrance to you guys in regards to piracy, or?
Well, I don't care so much about piracy because we're not making a jack or shit off our songs now anyway. I mean, they're up there, they're out there. The only way we're going to really make any money, we figure, is if we put out something that's solid, like a CD or a record. We'd like to do the record, we just haven't got the cash together. That you sell tactile. Hey, I'm going to sell this to you.
And when you say record, you mean
vinyl
you would
record.
like to do a collector.
We want to do vinyl real bad. It's just like real expensive. We do have a release coming out at the end of this month. It's going to be called Make It or Take It, 10 songs. We did it on CD, limited run of 100 copies, just because that's all we can freaking afford, but we want to get something that we can put in people's hands. And with that, we hope we're going to probably half of them will be sent out or given away. So with the 50, if we can sell them for $5 or $10 a piece, we're hoping to at least recoup and maybe do another run or put it towards recording our next batch of songs. But from the internet is purely, from my perspective right now, just a way to market and get the word out and build some credibility across the whole planet. But, we're not making any money from that shit. I don't know anybody who is. I guess people do. I don't know. But unless you're really in control of it, like, here's my CD, and thank you for your $10. There's so many middlemen. And to stream a song, you get like a penny for a stream. It's about a penny per stream.
And I identify with what you're saying, because I have Trailer Trash, my film, on YouTube, and now it's had close to 40,000 views, and we put it up 2011 and 12 kind of thing. And I remember David Wanger, he's the one that edited my film. He was like, why are we, I was like, dude, just fucking put it on YouTube so I can share it with people, I created this thing, it went through these film festivals, it won these awards. If I talk to someone about it, I at least want to be able to go, it's on
Reference
YouTube,
it,
watch it on YouTube, we'll talk about it. So I think part of being an artist is wanting your material to be out there, to be accessible for people to know.
Well, I didn't write a song, work on it for years sometimes, spend the money to record it, just to have it sitting in my own personal basement song stash or something like that. I want to get it out there and share it. We're just hoping maybe it's like planting seeds, You don't get much from a seed, you put it in the ground,
Well,
you don't even pay much for a packet of seeds. They're there, you throw them out, but hopefully later they'll produce some fruit that you'll be able to harvest or reap down the road.
Well, hopefully we can get something that somebody would choose one of our songs for something.
Now, what we'd like to do is be able to license that material. I'd like to, this is where I really think the whole underground movement could go, is if local businesses saw like the benefit of supporting local music by using a local band song in a car advertisement, by using a local band song on your YouTube channel when you're advertising your merchandise, something of that nature. Or to let a local band shoot a video in your environment. Okay, and we did this with Cannon Hill Place in Frederick. It's a thrift store. It's in an old building. It's got little stalls, and they sell thrift stuff. We went through there and shot a music video. We didn't give them any money or anything. They didn't ask for any. But now, anytime you go look at our song "No Lies," you're going to see the material that store is going to get advertised. That somehow the local community would see some value in that, and then maybe work out some sort of licensing deal where they give that band a little bit of kickback for using their material or whatnot.
And I think I agree with you using like with YouTube and all that, but with me doing this and hearing some of the tales come out from like some musicians that are on YouTube, that what's been happening in some cases, that they will record their song, put up a video on YouTube, someone else does a cover on it and flips the switch and saying, hey, you
exactly.
I'm copywriting claiming you because it's now mine. And it's a weird thing, and YouTube is constantly siding with one and not the other.
You have to
weird.
kind of claim first rights, and if you can show that you performed it before the other guy did, then it's your song.
Right.
So if I put a song or a video out there and somebody later records it, they're not going to have any evidence that they did it before me. So it used to be back in the day where, okay, I wrote a song, I'm going to write the lyrics, and I'm going to send it to myself, but I'm not going to open it. And that's my proof, postmark date, unopened envelope, that I wrote this song at this time frame, that I'm the original I have the earliest version of that.
And
Now the easy way is to just actually register your material, but it's freaking expensive. It's about $75, but you could do. It's per registration, but you can register an album. So if we do 10 songs, we could say that's an album. That's a group of collection of material. For $75, you can register it, but I'm too cheap to even do that. So.
Folks at home, what Andrew stated is in essence called the poor man's copyright. It's pretty much putting collection, mailing it to yourself because, as stated, even though if you have the funds to do it, going through official channels and saying this is a collection of poetry or songs, going that route is possible, and it is more of a concrete record, but still the poor man's copyright does exist and it's beneficial to everyone out there to use.
Now, looking back through history, I'm going to say hardly any of the early blues artists got any kind of money for recordings that they made during the 40s, 30s, 40s, and maybe in the early 50s. It wasn't until the 60s came around and the blues got a resurgence, mostly from England. Rolling Stones started covering old blues artists. The Beatles started covering old rock and roll and blues artists. That those guys ever saw any money and actually got to go to England and play and maybe re-release stuff, and they started getting money because these other bands covered their material. Now, these other bands were always good enough to throw the rights back for the most part to the original authors, but those guys would have never made a penny or never seen the light of day had the British invasion not got really into the blues and started re-releasing that material that those guys originally got like nothing for.
And Chris, I'll follow up with one of the questions you had asked. My initial vision wasn't what it has become. That this idea of creating an archive, look, when we talk and Kevin says that he's been part of 100 songs. Voodoo Love Gods probably have 100 songs out there. That to have this a catalog, archive material that other researchers, other musicians, other artists would have access to a public thing, so that they could explore this history. That became part of what the archive is really all about. And Andy, Kevin, Brian, Pat, all of these guys that go back to the 80s. I mean, that's the end of the 20th century. The end of analog recording as we understand it. You have the birth of the digital recording, which is now for us to try to save as much of that material that exists and to have it put into a digital format, again, so that would be accessible to future generations long past our lifespan.
Just probably one final thing. Again, this is to mainly Andrew and Kevin. With a lot of young artists out there, because we're recording this at the Let There Be Rock school here in the Eastern Panhandle, what advice and what encouragement could you tell the younger generations that might be up and coming or currently in the scene right now?
Well, I only tell these guys one thing. I told the Exiles too. I said, be yourself. Don't let anybody else tell you like do it this way or do it that way, unless it's the right way. But the only way you're going to figure out, being a musician is within you. I think, and your experiences. That's the only thing you can tell them. So you'll learn as time goes by. So it's being yourself.
I would say you got to support each other. There's a lot of competitiveness with everything, and we're kind of bred to be competitive through the school system and everything like that. But you got to put that aside and try to support other bands. You know what I mean? Because you're all going to win together, or you're all going to go down together. It's up to you, and you can go a lot further if you get 3, 4, 5, 10 bands that are supporting each other by going to each other's shows, doing shows together, and on the same trajectory. If you can envision that, you're going to go further than if you're talking bad about the other bands, not going to their shows, trying to pull support from them to get it to you. You're just like crabs in the trap at that point, and nobody gets
Well, that's
out of the
competition,
bucket.
right?
You know, so right now there is a lot of, and Don's helping to galvanize some of this, and a lot of the bands are helping each other, supporting each other, trying to do stuff together, and I think you get a longer, more legs on your material and a stronger force behind it than if you're constantly competing and trying to take something away from somebody else.
This is not a question, but I just want to state to you guys, all three of you, especially Don, you, Andrew, Kevin, thank you for letting me be a part of this interview
Thank you.
and discussion. So thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
We enjoyed it.
We're all part of the Long Coat Mafia here.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that presentation or that interview that Don did. Yeah, granted, I was a part of it for a few minutes, but still, I hope you enjoyed, if not learned, something new out of that interview that Don had with Andrew, A.K.A. Mr. Drew Starr, and Kevin, A.K.A. Mr. Buddy Love, from the band, the Drivin Beats. So, if anything, if you have any questions, comments, any remarks, please send them to longcoatmafia@gmail.com, or you could leave a comment in the pinned post that we have on Facebook. Our Facebook page is The Longcoat Mafia. I'm sorry, I almost gave away the web address for our show. Our Facebook page is facebook.com/The Longcoat Mafia Podcast. Our main website, if you want to, if you're streaming us on our website, you can also leave a comment on this episode. Our main website is thelongcoatmafia.podbean.com, and while you're there, feel free to listen to any episode going back straight to the beginning 4 years ago, officially. So, if you're listening to us on your desktop or laptop computer, but you want to take us on the go, you could do so by getting us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Spotify. The Podbean app is usually my favorite. And what else? Said all that. But if you're on the go, and you want to kind of listen to us like through headphones on the library computer or on your personal computer, whether it's a laptop or a desktop, you can do so by listening to us through Apple's iTunes or whatever the program that they're currently using now, or Stitcher Radio, or Spotify, or you can, again, go to our main website, which is thelongcoatmafia.podbean.com, and download any of the episodes that we have archived there and play them on any media player that plays MP3s or MP4s at your leisure. So you can do that. Therefore, if you want to stop at the library, download one of our episodes, you can do that and take it home and listen to it anywhere you can. Load them up on your phone or your MP3 player, or listen to it on your desktop. But let me just say this. Our episodes are not available on those locations. They are also available on YouTube if you want. And speaking of YouTube, you can find us there by searching, since we don't have that many subscribers, doing a search for the Long Coat Mafia Podcast. And once you find us and click on our channel, hit that subscribe button, please. Because the more folks that we have, the better we can grow and more content we could possibly give to all of you. And not to mention, it allows you to keep track of what we put on YouTube in regards to video content. Yes, we put a lot of video content on Facebook, and we do request you guys to click that like icon on our Facebook page. But the reason why we ask you to sub up to our YouTube is because we put exclusive content on our YouTube channel at times, just like we put exclusive video content on our Facebook page. So that's why we ask you to kind of sub up to both, and to also share our posts if you get a chance. Now, speaking of social media, you can also kind of message us on Twitter and on Instagram. We share the same handle on both, and that is Long Coat Mafia. So, You could reply, you could share our stuff, retweet us. And you can't really share us stuff on Instagram, but that's a side note. But to continue, we do have a Twitch channel. It is twitch.tv/The Lone Coat Mafia Pod. And our Mixer channel is mixer.com/LCMP. And those letters are in capitalized. So that's pretty much our social media stuff. If I'm missing anything, links to everything are down below. So besides that, I have nothing more to say. So other than stay tuned to where you get this podcast. Don't forget to sub up to our social media stuff and help us beat out the moving goalposts that Facebook and YouTube tend to do or move against us, because we're still struggling for that. So either way, take care. See you all next week. I am out.
You've been listening to the Long Coat Mafia Podcast, the internet's most hated and mafia-themed geek podcast.